It's not what happens to you that causes pain, but how you choose to face it. Epictetus. Have you ever felt your mind racing, speaking more than you meant, and focusing on everything but what truly matters, in a world drowned in noise, where quick opinions are mistaken for strength and impulsive reactions are seen as wisdom? Many men lose their way. They're exhausted, scattered, and disconnected from their inner strength. But the Stoic philosophers found the answer long ago. True power isn't about doing more, it's about doing better. It's not about shouting louder, but knowing when to stay silent. It's not endless thinking, but guiding your thoughts with purpose. In this video, you'll discover how Stoic philosophy for men helps you regain focus, strengthen your mind, and act with purpose. You'll learn to control what's in your power, master your inner voice, and build a presence that speaks louder than words, even in silence. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by distractions, you're not alone. Today could be the day you start rediscovering yourself. Join me, because when you think less, speak less, and focus more, the world no longer controls you. You control it. Hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay on this quiet yet powerful journey of transformation. First, your thoughts aren't the truth. A single thought can ruin your day. A quiet whisper sneaks into your mind like a shadow. I'm not good enough. Things will never change. What if it all goes wrong? Before you know it, you're living as if those words are carved in stone. But they're not. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, "It's not events that hurt us, but how we judge them." Have you ever mistaken a fleeting thought for reality? How often have you let an unchallenged idea hold you captive? Picture yourself at a train station. Each thought is a train passing by. Some carry regret, others anger, others fear. But you don't have to board every train. You can stand and watch them pass. You can breathe deeply. You can stay grounded on the platform. This simple act of observing without reacting, a daily Stoic practice, is your sharpest tool against the chaos in your mind. When you're caught in thought, you lose control. But when you step back and observe, thoughts lose their grip. They fade like mist. I recall a late-night talk with a colleague, a respected team leader admired for his calm. He admitted waking each morning with a knot in his stomach, not from external pressures, but from the whispers in his mind. The moment he opened his eyes, "You haven't done enough. You're getting it wrong." For years, he lived as if those thoughts were final verdicts. Then he stumbled on Marcus Aurelius, and everything shifted. He realized he could create distance. He could say, "I'm having the thought that I'm failing." That small shift in wording changed everything. It wasn't his failure anymore, just a passing thought, like a cloud, like smoke. And if you don't fuel the fire, the smoke clears. This isn't about denying thoughts or forcing positivity. That's just another way to dodge reality. It's about recognizing your mind generates thoughts automatically. Not all of them are useful. Many are just echoes of the past, inherited fears, or unfiltered reactions. And you are not those thoughts. You are the space where they appear. You decide which thoughts to nurture and which to let go. Stoic practice starts with that awareness. You don't need a remote retreat or a long meditation course. Just a few minutes each day to pause and observe. When a thought stings, don't react. Don't push it away. Don't cling to it. Just watch it. Ask yourself, is this really true? Do I have evidence? Does it make me stronger or weaker if it's not helpful? Let it go, not with anger, but with calm. Like dropping a stone you no longer need to carry. Little by little, you create space in your mind. And in that space, something no false thought can mimic emerges: clarity, calm, and unshakable strength. It's not magic, it's discipline. It's returning to reality, to the platform, to yourself. Time and again, the Stoics didn't try to stop thoughts. They aimed to tame them. They knew an untrained mind is like a wild horse. It drags you to places you don't want to go. But a trained mind becomes your ally. It lights your path. And most importantly, it gives you the freedom to walk it. Next time the voice in your head says, "You can't," "You're not enough," or "It's too late," take a deep breath. Don't board that train. Stay with yourself. Because thoughts don't define you. What you do with them is your true strength, quiet, inner, and unshakable. Second, the power of saying less. The stronger the soul, the less it needs to justify itself. Marcus Aurelius. Some silences make people uneasy. Others command respect. In a world where fast words are mistaken for intelligence and noise drowns out truth, choosing to say less is an act of defiance. Not against others, but against your own ego. The part that craves the last word, that wants to fire back to be heard. You're not here to prove anything. You're here to master yourself. I knew a man in our office meetings everyone steered clear of, not because he was rude, but because he was different. He didn't speak much unless it was necessary. He listened. He observed. And when he finally spoke, each word felt carved in stone, not because he was loud, but because he wasted no syllable. He didn't argue. He didn't explain himself. He only spoke when he had something valuable to share. That made him unforgettable. The Stoics saw this as a virtue. A wise man doesn't speak out of habit. He speaks by choice. He doesn't dive into word battles, knowing some fights are only won by staying out. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a soul grows stronger by staying calm amid the world's noise. That's the challenge, holding your ground when others shout, provoke, or demand a reaction. Saying less isn't about fear, it's about choosing when to speak and when to stay silent. Knowing not every jab needs a counter, not every slight needs a comeback, not every moment needs an explanation. When you respond to everything, you give your energy to the world. You scatter yourself. You become frayed. But when you choose silence with purpose, you sharpen your mind. You become a man who doesn't react on impulse, but acts with intention. The Stoics didn't live to please others. They lived for virtue. And part of that virtue is not saying more than needed, like a warrior measuring every strike, because a careless word can cut deeper than you think, and a well-timed pause can diffuse a bomb. Think back to the last time you spoke in haste. Maybe it was a jab, a defense, or an unneeded opinion. Was it worth it? Or did it just leave an empty space of regret, silence? On the other hand, never regrets. Silence gives you time. It lets you see the issue clearly. It hands you back control. Speaking less also makes you more present. It forces you to listen, truly listen, not to counter, not to win, but to understand. And something powerful happens. Others lower their guard, sensing you're not fighting but engaging. And you change too. Saying less helps you think more clearly. Your words stop being reactions and become choices. Epictetus taught that we should master emotions before mastering words. There's no greater freedom than not needing to explain yourself. That freedom lives in your breath, your gaze, the calm you hold when you choose silence. Even when you could dominate with a sharp argument, speaking less isn't just a style, it's a philosophy. It reminds you that control starts with your tongue. True respect isn't demanded, it's earned. In a noisy world, the man who masters silence becomes a presence that needs no introduction. Because sometimes the greatest strength is saying nothing at all, and in that quiet space, you grow stronger, clearer, more authentic. Third, control what you can control. There are times when the world feels stacked against you. Everything crumbles at once. Plans fall apart. People let you down. Opportunities slip away. The past stings. The future weighs heavy. In that chaos, one question cuts through. What now? Most people look for someone to blame. Others give up. But there's a kind of man who chooses differently. He turns inward. He knows the only power no one can take is his choice to respond. Epictetus called it the divide between what's in your control and what's not. A simple but ruthless principle. It puts the weight of your mind on your shoulders. It's not what happens, but how you let it affect you. You can't stop others from disappointing you, but you can choose not to let disappointment consume you. You can't rewrite the past, but you can keep it from defining who you are. The moment you stop wrestling with what can't be changed and grip what can, you reclaim power. Picture a ship on the open sea. The captain doesn't control the wind or waves, but he steers the rudder, adjusts the sails, and decides to keep sailing. A Stoic man lives like that captain. He doesn't pretend the storm isn't real or fool himself with false hopes. He asks, "Where's my real strength?" And from there, he acts. He decides. He builds. I once spoke with a man who lost his business after 20 years. He said the hardest part wasn't the money. It was the helplessness, watching his sense of self collapse with every unpaid bill. For months, he was trapped in anger, blame, and fixation on what couldn't be fixed. Then he stopped. He took a notebook and split it into 2 columns, what he couldn't control and what he could. His habits, his mindset, his discipline, his will to start again. From that day, he didn't just rebuild his business, he built inner peace. Because clarity gives you strength, and focus makes you unstoppable. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire, knew not everything was in his hands. He wrote to remind himself that happiness doesn't come from outside. Strength comes from the quality of your thoughts. An emperor could command armies, but not fate. His real power lay in how he responded, no complaining, no giving up, staying true to his core when the world spun out of control. Controlling what you can doesn't mean making everything perfect. It means holding the rudder steady, no matter the storm. When everything shakes, you choose what stays solid inside you. Calmness, purpose, deliberate action. Living from your core, not reacting from emotion. If you ever feel lost, pause. Breathe deeply. Look closely at what you're trying to control and let go of what isn't yours. Then pour all your energy into what you can change, no matter how small, because when you choose where to place your strength, every action becomes sharper, stronger, yours. That's what keeps a man standing when the world falls apart. Not luck, not circumstances, but the steady choice to return to what matters. Because that's where real change begins. Not out there, not tomorrow, but right now, in the thoughts you choose, the way you respond, the man you decide to be when no one else gets a say. Maybe you've felt this. A conversation ends, but you replay it in your head for days. A mistake from last month keeps you up at night. Someone hurt you, and though they're gone, the wound lingers. Not because of what happened, but because you keep feeding it in your mind. That's getting stuck in that moment. That thought, looping like a broken record. Sometimes, without realizing, you turn your mind into a prison, and you hold the key, but you're not sentenced forever, because thoughts aren't a death sentence. They're a choice. This isn't about denying the past or pretending everything's fine. It's about redirecting your focus to what builds you, what makes you stronger. A man who keeps looking back can't move forward. No matter how fast he runs, it doesn't matter how hard you try, if your mind clings to what can't be changed. But when you choose to look toward the light, something opens in you, not loudly, not instantly, but it opens, and that's where real growth starts. Marcus Aurelius, amid war, betrayal, and illness, wrote in quiet nights that the soul grows strong by focusing on what's essential, on what life demands of you today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but today, because the present, flawed as it is the only place you can act. Your attention is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. Every time you notice your mind wandering and pull it back to now, you're training an invisible muscle called self-discipline. Recall any day in your life. To do that, you return to your breath, your body, what truly matters. Someone once commented on a Stoic video I watched, every time I start moving forward, my mind drags me back to old memories, people who hurt me, and I lose hours as if it's still happening. I get it. We've all been there. But the key isn't to escape those thoughts. It's to face them, acknowledge them. Then, with resolve, decide they won't take up space in your today, even for just an hour. Channel your energy into what moves you forward. The Stoics didn't tell you to bottle up emotions. They urged transformation. Use those feelings as a pivot, showing you what to release. Change begins with a quiet choice where you place your attention. Each time you focus on value, growth, discipline, or building, you're telling the world and yourself, you won't waste a day on what can't be changed. You can't control every thought that pops into your head, but you can decide which ones stay. And that choice, day after day, shapes your character, your direction, your strength. That strength doesn't need to show off, it shows in your posture, your actions, your choices. The way you keep moving when others are stuck in their storms. Focus isn't a gift, it's a skill. And like any skill, it sharpens with practice. When your mind pulls you back to pain, the past, or chaos, don't fight it. Don't chase it. Breathe, acknowledge it, and return. Because where you place your attention, that's where your life grows. People wish the past didn't hurt. They want everything to go as planned. But it doesn't. The more you fight that reality, the more exhausted and wounded you become. It's not the burden that crushes you, it's how you carry it. Acceptance isn't giving up or sitting still. It's stopping the battle with what's already happened. It's looking straight at failure, mistakes, betrayal, and choosing not to let them define you. You won't build yourself on what went wrong. Clinging to how things should be keeps you chained to illusion, but acceptance lets you breathe. From that new calm, you can choose a different path. A man once emailed me, sharing how he spent years chasing his father's approval. He tried to be the perfect son, the successful professional, the tough guy, but it was never enough. Then his father passed, and the pain was brutal. Worse were the years of unresolved, striving to be seen, accepted, valued. Then he read Epictetus and realized freedom starts when you stop seeking permission to be yourself. Living for others' approval is living in invisible chains. That day, he began speaking to himself with respect, not because his father gave it, but because he chose not to need it anymore. The Stoics taught that you can't control how the world sees you, but you can control how you see yourself. Everyone filters reality through their own wounds, beliefs, and fears. When someone rejects you, it's not that you're worthless, it's that they can't see your worth. But you can. You must. Because if you don't, no one else will. Acceptance also means letting go of guilt. That inner voice keeps nagging that you should have done differently, avoided this, held on to what's gone. The past can't be rewritten. It can only be understood and used as raw material to build. When you accept something is over, you can start again, not from zero, but from experience. Resilience isn't just enduring, it's learning. It's growing from every fall, not with anger, but with clear purpose, not rushed, but directed. Because every blow that doesn't break you reveals who you are. It shows what you can hold on to, what you can let go. And yes, loneliness is part of it. When you stop living for approval, some people will walk away. You no longer fit their mold. You're not easily controlled, but that's your freedom. Being alone with your true self is better than being surrounded by people while disconnected from who you are. So next time things don't go your way, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What can I do with what I have now?" Don't wait for life to align perfectly before you start living. Live now, with what you have, with who you are, with what you know today. And each time you do, you'll feel a shift inside. Not loud, not exaggerated, but deeper, a strength that doesn't come from outside, but from finally accepting you don't need to be anyone else. Just you, fully, through pain, through struggle. Because in that acceptance, your real transformation begins. Sixth, embrace silence to find clarity. There's a noise you don't hear, but it wears you down. Not from the streets, your phone, or others, but from within. From an overloaded mind, chasing everything, trying to fix, solve, react. We're surrounded by stimuli, opinions, comparisons, demands. From waking up to collapsing, exhausted, there's constant pressure. Do more, know more, be more. And in that storm, you don't lose time, you lose direction. Without silence, everything blurs into chaos. When everything feels equal, nothing truly matters. But silence isn't emptiness, it's a refuge. The only place you can hear what you truly think, feel, want. You might be on a path you didn't choose, chasing goals that aren't yours, running after winds that don't fulfill you because you never pause to ask if they're yours. Silence forces you to do that, not through force, but through clarity, because when the outer world quiets, what's left is the real you. A man who watched my videos daily once shared he couldn't stand idle time. Even 10 minutes of nothing felt unbearable. He said if he wasn't busy, he felt worthless. But one day, in a moment of panic, he forced himself to sit still. No music, no phone, no one around. 5 minutes, just 5. And in those minutes, he cried, not from sadness, but from truth. He realized how long he'd been running, using noise to drown out what he needed to face. Now, every morning starts with silence, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. That's where he finds answers no book or advice can give. But the Stoics didn't shy from silence. They sought it. Marcus Aurelius wrote at night, alone, not to boast, but to hear himself, to order his mind before making decisions that shaped an empire. He knew a noisy mind isn't free, it's trapped in a mess of the unimportant. Epictetus taught that the wise don't speak from habit, only when necessary, and what's left unsaid often speaks louder than any words. Silence brings clarity. It shows what's worth your time and what's just noise. It reveals the real you when the world's eyes aren't watching. It uncovers your habits, fears, and deepest desire. But it takes courage, because silence challenges you. It exposes hard truths. It reminds you of what you've avoided. And that's where change begins, not in comfort, but in the uneasy space where you stop running. If you're lost, don't chase more noise. Seek silence. Turn off the clamor. Be still, not because you have nothing to say, but because you need to hear yourself first. You need to reconnect with what truly matters. And that's not out there. It's not in the next goal or answer. It's in the quiet point where everything stops, and you finally meet yourself again. The world won't pause for you. There's always new news, new demands, new voices. But you can choose not to listen to it all. You create a moment to pause, a sacred space where you're you again, not what others expect. Not a copy, but the real you. Because only a man who knows silence can truly hear, and only a man who hears what matters lives with purpose. Silence isn't weakness, it's a sign of inner control, mental clarity, true strength. 7th, say less. I think more. Most men don't get in trouble for what they don't say. They stumble over words spoken without thought. A Wort flung in Anger, a careless opinion tossed out, a rash reaction. And that's when damage starts, not always outwardly, but within, because every time you speak without awareness, you drift further from yourself. In a world rushing to be heard, the man who knows when to stay silent stands out. Think of your mind as a blade. Every word you speak is a swing. If you don't sharpen that blade, it'll cut you deeper than anyone. But if you learn when to strike, when to sheath, when to hone it in silence, you become unshakable. A man reached out after a family argument. He'd lost control over something small, but the anger had built for weeks from words he didn't say when he should have, from emotions he ignored, from judgments he threw like knives. When it was over, he felt empty. Deep down, he knew those words weren't his truth, just echoes of inner chaos he hadn't faced. So he set a rule: pause before responding, even just 2 seconds. It seemed small, but those seconds changed how he lived. They gave him space to choose. to think, to respond with calm. The Stoics placed great weight on the power of the pause. Epictetus said we're not defeated by events, but by how we interpret them, and that interpretation often happens before you open your mouth. So, the man who masters the tiny moment between stimulus and response doesn't just win arguments. He shapes his character, his path, his energy. In tense moments, silence can be your sharpest weapon, not because you're out of ammunition, but because you know not every fight is worth burning for. In a heated conversation, a single pause can make your words carry more weight than any volume, because words spoken without haste, without anxiety, without needing to win, they resonate further. Speaking with intention is an art, and like any art, it demands practice, awareness, and the courage to not get swept up in the noise. Today, we're bombarded with urges to react, post, comment, prove something. But restraint isn't suppression. It's choosing where your words come from ego or from your core, from pain or from wisdom, from a need to be heard or from the freedom of not needing approval. That's what separates the man who reacts from the man who stands firm. You can't always control your emotions, but you can control how you express them. You can learn to observe thoughts without letting them speak for you. You can train yourself to pause, breathe, wait for the right moment. Because the man who masters his words doesn't just communicate better, he respects himself more. And the man who respects himself earns respect. Next time you want to fire back instantly, pause. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong. Not because you're scared, but because you're focused. Because saying less isn't holding back, it's letting go of what doesn't need to be said. True strength isn't lifting heavier weights or shouting louder. It's forged in silence. In the moments you choose to think before reacting. In the days you decide to focus on what you can control. Every time you speak with purpose or stay silent with wisdom, you're shaping yourself. Today, we've explored 3 pillars to reshape a man: think less, say less, focus more. And this isn't some distant ideal. It's a daily practice, a way of living built from every choice, every conscious breath, every thought you observe without letting it become your truth. When you realize thoughts don't define you, silence is power, and focus shapes your path. A shift happens, not out there, but inside. You stop needing to prove your worth to the world, because you carry it within, because you've learned that peace, discipline, and clarity aren't reserved for the lucky few. They're skills you build, sharpen, and guard. So start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Use what you have. Breathe, pause, choose. And if you stumble, come back to this video. Let each word here be a gentle nudge. Your mind doesn't rule you unless you let it. Your voice doesn't lose value because you stay silent. Your focus is your greatest tool. If this resonates, share in the comments. Where do you need more stillness? What will you let go? Your story might inspire someone else to find themselves again.